So my talk tonight is anger, fear, pain, and frustration are the way. Yeah. Yeah. Before I get into that, I want to share this this piece from Maezumi Roshi. So for this talk, I've taken a few passages from a specific chapter of Appreciate Your Life. And I brought in my own, comments and a koan, that addresses it. So I'll get into it. But this really struck me as I read it, and I wanted to share this. Please consider that your practice is not just for yourself. When you forget yourself, a transformation takes place. Then your life is no longer your life. It's the life of the Buddha. Your practice is contributing much, much more to others than you might think. If we use any basic standard of evaluation, the fact that the life of each of us contains everything is the standard we should use. We make this realization clear through our practice. You are taking care of the Dharma at the same time that the Dharma is taking care of you. So I want to remind us of that. It's so encouraging. Yeah. This practice, this Dharma, the three treasures all together, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, are a great refuge for all of us. And then as you take refuge personally in those refuges, it really extends those refuges to others in ways that are, even mysterious and unseen. But what you're doing really transcends time and space. What we're doing transcends space and time. So, yes. So, in our sharing around after the election last week, I would say the primary emotions that were coming up. There's a lot of sadness. There was some fear. There was a fair amount of I would call it equanimity, acceptance of what was revealed, in the election, and a kind of a sense of calling. I think a fair number of people felt a sense of calling to practice and show up, in our collective in a certain way. So it's very important to recognize that our practice is about studying ourself and our own reactivities to things. So these strong feelings of fear, pain, frustration, disappointment, it's really important to turn in and to be very intimate with how those things are emerging within our own system. And not to project something out onto the world through a desire to make that feel better within ourselves. And that is typically what we do, right? This gets right at the heart of the Buddha's Four Noble Truths, right? Suffering is caused by attachment, and attachment basically means this extra that we add on top of uncomfortable feelings. It's kind of what it boils down to. And the extra that we add on top of it, the way I see it, it produces kind of deleterious effects in two ways. Number one, it kind of distorts everything. So we're no longer really in intimate connection with ourselves or with our environment because, our stuff is getting in the way. Number two, it actually reinforces our sense of self. It reinforces that ego, that struggle, that contraction, that manipulation, all the aversive, resistant, and craving tendencies that we have around those uncomfortable feelings. Reinforce ourselves as somebody who's doing those things. Right? And that in itself, puts us out of alignment with our true nature, which is not defined or fixed. And this is very subtle. It's very subtle. It's a lifetime of work to really get at the subtle attachments, is the word we use, which are both distorting our presence and reinforcing our sense of self, that ego. So the uncomfortable feelings become the most powerful gateway to really not distorting and not contracting around the self. The poison is the medicine, you could say, if you take it in the right way. So Maezumi Roshi says, of the Four Noble Truths, the fourth, the Eightfold Path, is the most important because it talks about how we can take care of suffering. Right? And then he says, the Eightfold Path begins with right understanding, or right view, it's called, which takes care of 90% of the pain in life. This really stood out to me. Right view. There's 7 other, folds in the path. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood. But right understanding, he says, right there takes care of 90% of it. And you know what? I reflected on that when I read that, and I realized I felt that way. And I've said it in many Dharma talks. Awareness is the biggest, it's the most important and the biggest step is awareness. It's really seeing what's going on. The biggest step. I would never go as far as to say it takes care of 90% of the suffering, but I'm going to take it from Maezumi Roshi. Okay. So what is this right understanding, right? It's quite, deep. Okay. There's a few aspects of it that Maezumi Roshi brings up in his, chapter that I'm referring to here, so I want to share those. The Buddha talked about the 8 awarenesses of the enlightened person. And these are actually towards the end of his teaching career, towards the end of his life. He talked about these 8 awarenesses. And Maezumi Roshi focuses on 2, the first 2 of these 8 awarenesses as the key to right understanding or right view. So I want to appreciate this a bit. This might be the most important attitude that we can take toward our practice or even our life, which is these aspects of right understanding. One aspect is don't expect anything. Another way he puts it is, actually the way the Buddha put it is, desire as little as possible. Okay, I think I actually brought this up a few weeks ago in my Dharma talk. Okay, desire, he doesn't say don't desire, but desire minimally. And the other is everything is already here, which we also express as be satisfied with what you have. So desire little and be satisfied. Those are the 2 main awarenesses of the enlightened person, the first 2 at least. So what is there to expect? What else do you need? You have everything to begin with. You don't need to become something or someone else. I think this is an important sort of point to understand here is, we can say, well, you don't need anything. What else is there to need? And then, the mind kind of rightly goes, well, no, come on. I need food. I need drink. I need intimacy. I need connection. I need, meaning. We do have these needs. But the real essence here is about what do you need to be? Right? Who do you need to be? Do you need to be different? Not only do you need your state to be different, but do you need to be different? That's the deeper level, really, that drives us. Not only changing our state condition to something pleasurable, comfortable, right? But to have our self be okay, with who we are. You don't need to become, back to Maezumi, you don't need to become something or someone else. You are already complete. Buddha guarantees this to each of us with no exceptions. This is right understanding. Okay. I wonder how clear we are about the need to be something underlies all of our desires to get something or to change our state. Okay. I would say that this desire to be something, anything to start with, and then something good and respected and valued and whatnot, secondly, but to be someone is the primal drive, right? You say that's the real attachment that's driving everything. And then it's kind of covered over with the desire to get things or to change our state. So it's important to have this understanding that we're never going to be as fixed and as positive as we want ourselves to be, as that egoic consciousness wants us going to be. That is not our nature. So we'll be out of alignment because we will never get that which we seek. And we'll never get the continuous positive state condition that we want either because of impermanence. So we've just touched on two of the three seals of Buddhism: no self and impermanence. That's right understanding. So you could say it's not wanting yourself to be different than you are, but I think a better way to put it is not letting our desire for ourself to be different get in the way of appreciating yourself. Because as soon as you say don't want something, you get into trouble, I think, right? Because it's like, oh damn, I want that. And then you got to fix that, and then it all starts to be, another house of cards gets built on top of that. Don't want that. Okay, so I rephrased it. Don't let our desire to be different than we are, because I do have a lot of desires to be different than I am. I do. But not to let that get in the way of appreciating who I am, what is manifesting who I am. Yeah, I like that way of phrasing our practice, you know? And I find that it usually does, right? My desire to be different gets in the way of appreciating who I am. Pain, fear, frustration, anger, are right there, the gateways to this, because those are often the things that we don't want to feel or want to fix in some way. We think those are indications, that we need to do something or be something. Okay, so how can they be the way? Book of Equanimity, case 94, Tozan's illness. Once upon a time when Tozan was ill, a monastic asked him, "You are ill, teacher, but is there anyone who doesn't get ill? Tozan said, there is. The monastic said, does the one who doesn't get ill take care of you, look after you? Tozan said, I look after him. The monastic said, how is it when you look after him? Tozan said, there I don't see that he has any illness. In another translation, it's, then the illness is not seen. So this is a great, powerful, amazing koan. The one who doesn't get ill. So the monastic asks, who's the one who doesn't get ill? So in a way, he's kind of saying, well, as Buddha, this awakened mind, kind of not being disturbed by conditions, right? Is that one around? Is that present? And Tozan said, yeah, actually that one is present. Maybe even beyond life and death, you could say. But then one asks, does that one take care of you who are so sick, right? Does your absolute self, does your Buddha nature take care of your relative self conditioned by these afflictions? No. No. It's the one who is ill who's taking care of the Buddha mind. That's the way. That is the way. So you can imagine Tozan, how intimately he's experiencing his own illness. Because that's the practice, is to intimately experience our own experience. Appreciating our life. Completely and fully. The one who is ill is the one who's vulnerable, who's intimate with their own suffering all the way through. Norman Fisher, in commentary on this koan, he told a story in a Dharma talk about there was a teacher at the San Francisco Zen Center who had cancer, and everyone knew she had cancer. And she announced, I'm not sick, at one point, very far advanced in her cancer. And she was so convincing in what she said. She was so true to that people thought she was dementing. Like she had forgotten that she had cancer. But she hadn't forgotten she had cancer. She was just manifesting this sensibility. Because the seeing of the illness is not seen anymore. When she completely accepted the illness. But not being defined by it or not resisting it. Fully accepting it. And that way you're taking care of the awakened one. So our willingness to be present and intimate with the unpleasant conditions of our life, that takes care of our Zen mind of practice. Now, this is a final passage from Maezumi. It's a little bit here, but it's resonant. So when you feel fear, pain, and frustration, appreciate your life as Buddha's life. Being sick, take good care of yourself instead of being upset and frustrated. Getting old? Enjoy it. Buddha is getting old. Have a feast with him or her. Why not? We have all had painful experiences. Turn your mind around and see how you can take it with the joy of Buddha. Just the way we look at these things can be the difference between heaven and hell. Okay, that's right understanding, taking care of 90% of suffering. This is not to say there's not terrible suffering in life, but too often a tiny thing becomes a huge thing for us. It almost kills us. And yet, when we look at it from a different perspective, we laugh. Clarify what life is, what death is. There is a very clear answer. How you appreciate it and how you live it is up to you. Please take care of it. So all of us are right on the way. Fear, pain, illness, sadness, anger. Be intimate with all of those things. And that's taking care. That's taking care of the Dharma. It's taking care of the awakened one. Yeah, but taking care of those things very deeply. And then, like I said at the beginning, doing that actually really helps others as well. Not only just in the same room, but permeating beyond. Okay, thank you for your time.